This is the Flavor of Leadership podcast. I am your host, Clint Hoops. Together, we explore the unique blend of leadership wisdom that helps top leaders consistently achieve work goals, develop personally, and find fulfillment with family. Let's get started. This is episode number 32. Several years ago, I began to get into gardening somewhat. Kind of funny. I kind of hesitant. I used to actually be hesitant to mention that I had a hobby of gardening. I thought, man, this isn't something you do till you're like old man type thing. I can't do anything else, so I go out and piddle around in the garden. But I'm telling you, several years ago, I started a small garden, and before I knew it, it kind of was addicting. It was fun to grow things. And when I say garden, I don't grow a lot of flowers or grow things like that. I'm typically growing like food. Like I want to grow things I can eat. And so I love, growing a garden and fruit trees and all those different things. So I got to the point where I went from a small little garden to where I actually built a big greenhouse. And so got to the point where in my greenhouse, I was, heating and cooling it and making sure that I was able to grow things year round. And I had all kinds of different seeds and starts and all kinds of different food. I mean, I've grown hundreds, it seems, of different types of different varieties of things in this greenhouse and over a few years. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And fun to see things grow and fun to get my family out there and help me grow all of these different things. And it's fun when you go out there during like the summertime, right? During the time where, it doesn't have to be in a greenhouse to grow well. It can grow well outside too. But it was always fun to go out into the garden and almost feel like you could, see the plants growing. It was kind of crazy that you could almost feel the plants growing. It was just so much going on. Just things were happening. You'd go out there, one day, and then the very next day you'd come back out and you would see plants having actually noticeably grown. And that's so fun to see plants grow because usually you're looking at plants and you don't really notice. It's just over time they get bigger and you almost can't notice the change. And so it's always fun when you can see it grow so quickly. Lately, I've been wanting to plant a new variety of peach. One of our favorite fruits that we have are peaches. And so I'm wanting to plant some new trees, and one of the types of peaches that I want to grow, I can't find a tree that's already started, right? Because a lot of times you'll go down to the nursery or you'll order some trees and they're already a year or two old so that you can get a kickstart, right? So you can plant your tree and then in a year or two you actually get some fruit on your tree. So unfortunately, I'm going to be starting this particular tree that I want to do from seed. And so this can take a while. If you're planting a tomato plant from seeds, a few months down the road, you'll start getting tomatoes. It's great. You don't have to wait that long. But a tree is a lot different. I've actually never planted a tree from a seed. I've planted all my other plants from trees, but I've always gotten starts on my tree, so I haven't had to wait as long. And so this will be a new one for me. And I'm looking online trying to say, okay, how long is this really going to take before I get any fruit? And I mean, it's going to be several years, 4 or 5 years before I get any fruit, really harvesting on this tree. I mean, I might get 1 or 2 little pieces of fruit, but really, really several years before I'm going to get any fruit. And so it's really a big investment to care for this plant and make sure it's healthy and strong so that I can get this certain peach that we want in the future. Which also made me actually start thinking about my 10-year-old son, because I'm sitting here talking about trees, right? And he's hearing me and my wife, and we're talking about trees and trying to figure out, okay, what kind of trees we want to do and what are we going to do? And one of the things he said is he's like, man, I just want a tree house. A tree house would be so fun because, he's had other people or other friends that have tree houses, and none of our trees are that big. And so, and they're kind of the wrong kind of trees. And so I said, hey, we want a tree house. We're going to have to plant a tree now so that we can build a tree house when you have kids. And so that was kind of funny. He wasn't too happy about that, but he got it. And he's like, well, I guess we should do it. And so when do we do it? And so that was the big thing. It's like, when do we start doing it? Well, we do it now. If we want to have a tree in the future, we want to plant it now. And so, because really these kind of things will really thank ourselves in the future, right? For the hard work that you put in now. And so that's true with trees. And it's also true with when we're trying to become who we want to be. So much of the intentionality that we're doing in trying to improve ourselves as a leader, as a person, is our constant effort every day of continuous improvement in trying to become who we want to become. Last week, we talked about building culture in a company, and or in your own department. And we just talked about how it just plain takes time. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of effort, and frankly, you don't always know that it's working. And you feel like it's working, but it just takes time. And that's the worst. I mean, I hate that answer sometimes. Well, you'll see, just takes time. We have to work at it. But unfortunately, that's the answer to so many things. We just have to have some patience, diligence, intentionality, but yet still patience. A few episodes back, we talked about the 20-mile march. And the 20-mile march was shared to talk about how, it was someone that was basically hiking across the country, right, from one ocean to the other, and talked about how the best way to do that was, regardless of the weather, good or bad, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of how you feel, you march 20 miles every day. That was how the people in that story accomplished their goal and accomplished it best. And so it's the same as this. It's choosing to plant the tree now, choosing to get the vision of what you actually want in your mind now. Decide, hey, I want the peaches in the future, or I want this particular characteristic. I want to be this type of leader for my people. I want this type of culture in my company, in my department. And just like the tree, just like they always say, when's the best time to plant a tree? They say now. And that's the same way with these things. When's the best time to start building the culture you want, determining the vision you want? It's now. It's right now. And often it won't be you that gets to benefit from it as much as you'd like. Just like my little boy, he wants a treehouse for himself. But the next best thing is planting a tree so that his kids can have a treehouse. And so much of what we do at work may not benefit us. We may not still be there. Hopefully we are. Hopefully we create something so great that we want to be there and everyone wants to be there for the long term. That's the hope, right? But things do change and people do move on. And the hope is that you planted some solid trees that are going to grow, a solid culture that's going to endure beyond you and continue to build and get better and better as time goes on, even if you're not the one there to finish it or to reap all of the benefits in the end. Is it still worth it? Yeah, still worth it. Still worth it. Often the little pushes and the little things that we do, it will seem like they are barely improving until one day you look up and you see, wow, that is what we've accomplished with our consistent work. So much has happened because of our intentional, consistent work. You got this. Until next week.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of the Flavor of Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for us, you can reach me directly at flavorofleadership.com. Thanks for listening.